All right, in this video, we're going to just talk about everything in your video besides the foreground. A general saying I want you to start to think is this. People see the foreground, but they believe the background. And when it comes to backgrounds, you have a few different directions. One is to create a very processed image. That's what I'm using. I have a green screen to delete the background, and have this sort of gray background because I want it to be very, very simple. I use this when I'm teaching online classes, when I'm doing tutoring, when I'm doing all that kind of stuff. Now I'm going to show you some things that I add. I add these lower thirds. This was made in Adobe Photoshop, and you'll notice that I actually have a slight transparency. I don't have this at 100% opacity. And again, these are all things you can do with OBS. For class, when I'm teaching classes, I also add a little clock, just like that, which is using a program called Snaz. Now, the reason that I bring all these up is I want you to realize how much you can really do with OBS. I mean, you can do a lot with OBS. You can do so much. So one direction is to create more of a digital processed image, and for what I do, it's the right choice. Now, for a college interview, though, it might not be the right choice because then you don't want to create the sense that you're dealing with an unfair advantage, right? You might use a professional camera, but you don't want to necessarily have the interviewer know that, right? You want the interviewer to think, oh my God, this person just seems like kind of cool. There's something about him, an X factor. The X factor is you have a better camera, but he doesn't know that. The X factor might be you have a lookup table. He doesn't need to know that. He just needs to kind of have this first impression of like, yeah, there's something about this person. You've seen elements of this. For example, in a lot of classical paintings, religious figures are painted with halos. The idea that they just look like they're more kind of glowing and alive than the regular person. That's the type of thing that you might want to do. So let's talk about how you can stage a background. The key about a background is this. It should not show anything problematic, but it should just showcase something that is what you're about. And what are you about? You're about basically three things. And you might say, wait, whoa, how do you know what I'm about? For college strategy, you're about three things. You're about the hero, you're about the adult hero, and you're about the nerd. You can showcase some of them, you can showcase all of them, doesn't really matter. Showcasing the adult hero just means showcasing a step in uncharted territory. That means behind you there might be something that you're working on, some partially built computer or partially built thing, something that's in the process of being built, right? And again, this is not like a mess designed to draw attention to itself. It could just be something that's not totally finished that's on a shelf. The nerd, I mean, that's books, and that's the simplest way to showcase that. And there might be some other ways, books, documentaries, but basically books showcase the nerd. And the adult hero, again, to showcase the adult hero, you have to go against the established order. Now, creating the adult hero might be trickier, but if you do it, it could be pretty cool. What would the adult hero do? I don't know, the sky's the limit there. Maybe he puts a couch on the wall or ceiling. But again, staging the background can go in many different directions. But here's what I would put above all else. Keep your background simple. Don't over-clutter it and make it an eye strain for the interviewer. Keep it nice and simple and easy. Put one or two things in the background, not 500 different things. The interviewer shouldn't feel stressed out during the interview just by the chaos of your room. Even if you're trying to show the hero and something's partially built, it should be partially built but like elegant looking, not partially built and it looks like a tornado hit your house. The background is important because people see the foreground, but they believe the background. Let me tell you what to not put in the background. Don't put anything that makes you look spoiled or privileged. Don't put like a super expensive clock. Don't put any original Monet painting. Don't put something that's gonna make you look obviously like you have an unfair advantage. The only advantage you should have, the way in terms of appearance, is grit and perseverance. That you're willing to step into uncharted territory. That you're willing to be curious about small things. That you're willing to challenge the established positions. Now, one final thing. Now that you know a little bit more about this, we're going to talk once again about microphones. And you'll notice that I use a lavalier mic. I don't use a desktop mic for these. Although I have both. And if I'm doing just audio only, I'm not doing video at all, then I will often use the desktop mic. It is, because I can get when I'm using the desktop mic, I mean, I'm just like, my mouth is like a millimeter away from the mic, right? Whereas with a lavalier mic, while my mouth is closed, it's still about 6 inches away, right? So here's the thing about mics. You don't want it to be something that looks like you're hiding behind it. You want to look open and vulnerable. Remember how we talked about how Superman stands, right? He stands in this position of maximum vulnerability. He's not protected by any physical object. And so that's why I like to use a lavalier mic. It shows that I'm kind of open and there's nothing blocking me, right? There's nothing protecting me. When I do media interviews, I don't have the lower thirds because for a media interview, they will add the person interviewing you, the TV station or whatever, they'll add their own lower third. So I don't put anything, it's just this. And I use the lavalier mic again so I can have this maximum openness. It looks like you're being vulnerable, like you're being honest, like you're being forthright, all of those types of things. Now again, I know a lot of the stuff we've talked about might be way outside your budget. That's all right. You might not, you don't have to use this, you don't have to use this lavalier mic. You can use a $10, headset and also get really good sound quality. Don't believe that you need to have the most expensive equipment to get into Harvard. You don't. But if you do have the budget, these are some of the tools that I recommend if you have that budget. If you don't have it, again, don't worry about it. So during this interview course, you learned so many different things. Feel free to watch this a few times. You learned about how to use archetypes, how to control conversations, and all that kind of stuff. Guess what? This interview course, as big as it is, barely scratches the surface of the stuff that you can learn. If you want to learn more about interview training, if you want to work one-on-one with me on how to really hone your interviewing skills, feel free to set up a free consultation using the link on this page, and we can take your interview skills to the absolute next level. No matter what type of interviews you want to do, whether they're political interviews, job interviews, or college interviews, I can show you a lot of techniques, a lot of more and more advanced techniques that are going to help you stand out and get in. Final thing, one of the types of interviews you're going to do, or one of the interview replacements that you're going to do, is the 2-minute pre-record. All the techniques we talked about, use the same techniques for the 2-minute pre-record, with one important difference. You need to practice that pre-record a lot. It's not going to be your first take or second take or third take or even 10th take. If you plan to do an interview pre-record in September, start practicing daily in June. Make sure you're watching your videos and seeing how you can tweak and improve those. Over time, you're going to create that type of thing that's going to help you stand out and get in. All the tools we've learned here are things that you're going to have to practice and experiment with. Watch this course a few times. Really make sure you understand these ideas. These tools will give you a huge advantage over your competitors and will definitely help you stand out and get in.